Today, I'm going to be breaking down the Study Iceberg. At the top of the iceberg are all the study tips you've heard a million times before. If you ask your grandparents, they probably will know this method. And they're the ones that teachers will advocate for, and all the productivity AI influencers that you see online. But as we start going down the pyramid, I'm going to show you lesser known information, high leverage strategies that really top students from around the world are using, that I also use to get these grades. And I guarantee, as we go down the levels, these are going to be tricks that you haven't not heard before. So let's start at the surface, and trust me, the further we go down, the more your perspective on study will shift. So in layer 1, have a tidy workspace. It's exactly as it sounds. Having a tidy workspace when you study, having a clean study workspace feels nice, and there are proven psychological benefits to having a clean study space, as shown. But the real thing is, cleaning your desk isn't going to magically make you productive. When I was revising for my GCSEs, I'd spend like 30 minutes organizing my space, as if moving my pens around were going to help me get the grades I wanted. A tidy study space helps you start, but don't confuse this with actual study. Second thing, make a to-do list. Writing a to-do list is fine, and it's quite self-explanatory. When you need to study, like for the day, you might list down everything you want to get done that day. But most students actually do this wrong. They either write down 20 random tasks and get overwhelmed, or they spend too long designating the perfect list that they actually forget to do anything out of them. If you want to use a list, you have to keep it simple. 3 tasks for the day, because if you make such an ambitious list and you tick off none of them, you're going to have no incentive to actually follow it, right? So just 3, and make sure to start with the hardest one, and we'll get to eating the frog later in the video. The third thing, highlight important information. And yes, the highlighter, the global study weapon choice for most students pretending to study. Look, highlighting feels productive because you're actually doing something with the book, right? You're like coloring it in, but it's passive. You're not actually testing your brain or engaging with the material. When I first started revising, I'd highlight entire paragraphs in like neon yellow and wonder why I couldn't remember anything in the exam. And the fourth one, listen to lo-fi music while you study. This one isn't terrible, but it is overrated. If you're doing shallow tasks like organizing notes, music is fine. But if you're trying to do deep work, solving a hard maths problem, or actually revising past papers, writing essays under time conditions, music is actually shown to be a distraction, as you can see. Sometimes silence is the ultimate productivity hack. And the next one, use the Pomodoro technique. This is the classic study for 25 minutes and then rest for 5 minutes that is said by everyone. And it does work for a lot of people because it lowers the barrier to getting started. But here's the problem, real deep work, especially as you progress through the education system, often takes 30 to 60 minutes just to get into the flow. If you keep interrupting yourself with breaks every 25 minutes, you'll never get there. When I was cramming for my GCSEs, I ditched Pomodoro and just started working in 90-minute blocks with longer breaks, and that's when my focus and grades actually improved. That was the first level of the iceberg. These surface level tips aren't completely useless, but it's kind of like training wheels. Good for getting started, but if you rely on them forever, you'll never actually level up. So let's dive one layer deeper. These are actually tips that are worth your time. They're still popular, you've seen them probably in videos like this, and they work way better than surface level hacks. The first one in this layer, active recall. If you take just one thing from this video, it's probably going to be this. Stop rereading your notes and actually start testing yourself. When I was revising for GCSE chemistry, I used to read my textbook over and over thinking it would somehow stick, but it didn't. When I switched to active recall, which basically just means actually testing yourself, so closing the book, forcing myself to write out everything I remembered, blurting, suddenly I was actually learning. Your brain is also a muscle, you have to remember that. If you want it to get stronger, you have to make it work. Testing yourself creates that healthy struggle that strengthens your memory. The next thing, spaced repetition. This one's a game changer. Instead of cramming everything the night before, you space out your study sessions over days or weeks. Here's how it works. Every time you forget something and then relearn it, your brain builds stronger connections. That's why apps like Anki are so popular. They automatically space out your flashcards so that you review them at the perfect time. Spaced repetition. When I started spacing my biology revision and all of my subjects instead of binge studying and cramming, my grades went up, and it also reduced the need to relearn topics because it was more tailored for long-term memory. The next thing is blurting. This is like active recall but on steroids. Basically, you close your notes and you blurt out everything you know about a topic onto a blank page. When I first tried this with history, I realized how many gaps that I actually had in my knowledge that I always thought I knew. I thought I knew all of the Cold War events, but when I actually tried to write them down in a timeline, I actually couldn't. Blurting exposes the holes and weaknesses in your knowledge fast, and that's a good thing because now you know what to fix and revise. The next thing, blocking distractions. This one sounds obvious, but it's a pretty good tip. It goes deeper than just putting your phone away. When I'm in focus mode, my phone isn't even in the same room. Out of sight, out of mind. If I need extra help, I use apps like ScreenZen or or forest to literally block social media. If you're trying to study and your phone is buzzing right next to you, you're basically running with weights on your ankles. Take them off. The fifth one, study before you sleep. And this is actually quite a fun one. You revise right before sleeping. Revising right before sleeping, supposedly, helps you store memories in the long term because what you study and your neural networks are strengthened while you sleep. So when I was memorizing French vocab, it was a routine for me every night before I went to sleep to just look at the flashcards 10 minutes every night before bed. And the next morning, the words actually did feel way familiar. Just make sure to not do this while lying in your bed and scrolling on TikTok, because then your brain will link your bed with distractions instead of focus. So those are solid techniques in level 2. But let's be honest, they're still in the comfort zone. You probably knew all of them. Everyone talks about active recall and Anki these days. So if you really want to separate yourself from the rest, you've got to go deeper. So moving down into level 3, where things start to get tactical. Just before we get onto those which you don't want to miss, I need to tell you about this. So I was working on my English essay for the remains of the day, and I had that moment. You know when you're just staring at your book thinking, I know this means something, but what? That's when I opened up the book in Tome. And not gonna lie, it felt like having a personal tutor on call 24/7. You just highlight a quote or literally any section of your study material and it explains to you what's going on. For that essay, it unpacked the theme, tone, symbolism, and it even gave me different interpretations, as you can see. Everything that it explained is automatically saved, so I basically just built my own revision guide while writing. And here's what really surprised me. I used it for maths too. I was reviewing derivatives and Tome walked me through the steps, just like a tutor would, but faster. And I didn't have to switch tabs or anything, just click, understand, and move on. I've tried ChatGPT or Notion AI, but what makes Tome different is that I don't have to open up another chat or type into the AI. As a student, I want something to be explained to me right away before I lose my train of thought. So because I didn't have to copy or screenshot what I didn't know, I had to open up another tab, then paste it into like Gemini. So Tome skips all of those annoying steps, and everything's just on one screen. You don't even need to leave the app. It doesn't even just spit out answers, it adapts to what you're working on and how you want it explained. So whether it's a biology diagram or a dense history paragraph, you're just working with your materials, as you can see. I've used it across subjects, from annotating English passages to breaking down physics problems, and Tome fits your workflow instead of making you change it. If this all sounds interesting, make sure to check out Tome for free. The link to get started is in the description. You'll see what I mean. But now onto the level 3 strategies. So firstly, interleaving, mixing topics instead of blocking. When most people study, they block up chunks of time for just one subject, right? 2 hours of physics, then 2 hours of history. But your brain actually remembers more when you mix topics. It's called interleaving. Instead of doing 2 hours straight of physics, do 30 minutes of physics, 30 minutes of history, then go back to physics. It feels harder because your brain has to switch gears, and the struggle is what makes the connection stronger. When I revised for GCSEs, I started mixing my maths topics, just doing algebra, then geometry, then back to algebra. At first it feels messy, but you're giving your brain time to forget. And this mimics how you actually learn, right? When you learn, you're going to learn other things in the meantime, and then you also have to set the test. And so this is training your brain how you actually absorb information anyway, so it's actually very good. Second one, Feynman technique. Teach it like you're explaining it to a 5-year-old. Here's the test. If you can't explain a topic simply, you don't really understand it at all. The Feynman technique forces you to simplify what you know as if you're teaching it to someone else. No memorized definitions, just clear, simple language and explaining it how you think you do. When I was revising economics, I pretend to teach supply and demand to my wall or my cat. At first I realized I didn't actually understand half of it, because when you need to articulate what you think you know into sentences, you'd be surprised how difficult it actually is. But after breaking it down and seeing my weaknesses, the concepts actually stuck very well. The next thing, output over input. So what this means is that most students think that studying means getting information in, reading, watching videos and highlighting. But top students actually flip this. They focus on output, past papers, practice questions, essays under timed pressure. I call this the exam simulator mindset. If you want to get good at football, you don't watch matches, you play them. Studying is the exact same way. Dual coding. Pair words with visuals. Your brain loves pictures. If you can combine diagrams, mind maps, or flowcharts with written notes, you're engaging 2 pathways at once. When I was revising biology, I made tiny stick figure sketches of processes like the photosynthesis. They look ridiculous, but in the exam, I could literally see the diagram in my head, and they were really good at making me memorize these complex processes. The next thing in this tier is strategic overlearning. Most students stop revising a topic once they can do it once, but top students push past that. Overlearning means practicing beyond mastery, doing an extra problem even after you got it right, rewriting an essay even when your teacher said it was good. This is what makes recall effortless under pressure. During my GCSE physics exam, I didn't even have to think. The formulas felt automatic because I've overlearned them. So now we move on to level 4. These tactics aren't common, but they're still pretty well known. That's what good students use. But you're not here to be just good, right? So we're going deeper. Level 4 is where we hit obscure, the experimental, and strategies that sound weird until they actually start working. With the high leverage hacks, starting with dopamine loading. This is a really crucial one. The reason that students struggle to study is dopamine contrast. They wake up, they check TikTok, scroll through Instagram, and they spike their brain's reward system. Then they try to revise chemistry and wonder why it feels so boring. It's because scrolling spikes your dopamine here, but then you're having to do a low dopamine task. And the difference between two things is a huge gap, and your brain struggles doing those things. So flip this. Stop giving your brain big dopamine hits in the morning or before having to do all of these big tasks. So a really great rule is to do your hardest tasks in the morning, studying, etc. Keeping your phone literally away. Even in school, I don't check my phone. Save all the fun stuff, games, YouTube's, anime for the evening, and that's what I do. My screen time is crazy high, but people don't realize that's all after I've done my studying. This doesn't reduce screen time like I just said, but because I delay those spikes and I tactically make my day kind of look like this on the dopamine scale, studying feels normal, not painful, and my day is still fun. The next thing, 2-a-day study sessions. Here's the way one, studying the same material twice in one day. So in the morning, you learn or revise a topic, and in the evening, you do a short recall session or practice questions. This creates 2 reinforcement points each day for your brain and massively improves retention. I used this during my IB mocks, and I found I remembered more with total less time spent revising. The next thing in this layer is the lag effect. This sounds counterintuitive, but actually waiting a little before you review something or study actually strengthens memory, and this is called the spacing effect also. Instead of rereading your notes immediately, give it a gap, a day or 2 days, and then test yourself. That little bit of forgetting forces your brain to work harder, and that's what makes memory stick. The next thing, habit stacking. If you want to revise consistently, attach it to a habit that you already do. For example, every time you brush your teeth in the morning, do 5 flashcards straight after. After lunch, spend 10 minutes blurting everything that you can remember from the morning. Tiny habits like this compound fast, and they're also made far easier by the fact that you're not actually having to force any more motivation or discipline because it's on a habit that you already do. The last thing on this tier is mental contrasting. Most students set goals like, I want a 9 in maths, I want to get 100% in my next exams, but they don't visualize the obstacles. Mental contrasting means imagining the ideal outcome and the things that will also get in the way. Distractions, procrastination, burnout, and then making a plan to handle them. This trains your brain to expect resistance, but then also to overcome and push through it. The reason I make how to study videos, but I also more importantly make videos about how to improve your attention span, is because all of these obstacles are stuff you need to overcome as a student for you to get better. These strategies that we just covered were really powerful. But now we're moving on to level 5. It's about thinking differently. It's when you stop treating studying as a grind and you start to optimize it in every way possible. So level 5, the bottom of the iceberg. Firstly is productive procrastination. You're going to procrastinate, right? That's human. The trick is to procrastinate on something less important by doing something slightly more useful. When I couldn't be bothered to revise like my biology notes, etc., what I do is I tidy my flashcards or rewrite an essay plan, something that was a little easier because it wasn't the main task. It's still technically procrastinating. I'm not doing the main thing, but by doing like the mini tasks, it's easier so I can do them, right? Because like, for example, I had enough motivation in my bank left to do that, but it also keeps me moving forward instead of spiraling into YouTube shorts for like 2 hours. And also getting these minor kind of like shallow tasks, as Cal Newport describes them, out of the way allows it so that when you actually feel like doing the deep work tasks, you're not getting suddenly interrupted by like, I need to like sort out my flashcards and start randomly doing those. So that's productive procrastination. The next thing is pre-leisure guilt trick. You know that guilty feeling where you can't actually relax or even have fun in like watching your favorite shows or gaming because you know you have homework or assignments to do, right? You have to flip that, kind of linking to dopamine loading, but you tell yourself that you're going to work first, then play. I don't touch my phone, games, or Netflix until my study block is done, and when I do, I can relax 100% guilt-free. And also, this goes both ways because this pre-leisure guilt trick actually motivates you for studying even more, because once you actually create this as a hard rule and you start implementing it, your brain starts to know, okay, after I do this study session, I can enjoy myself for the rest of the day. Your brain looks forward to the dopamine that's coming later, and so you actually lock in harder when it's time to study right now. The third thing, embracing boredom. Studying isn't always fun, and that's okay. Most students panic when they feel bored and instantly reach for their phone. But if you can sit through that discomfort, even for an extra 5 minutes, you're training your focus like a muscle. Like, you've seen those TikToks, and like me and my friends are talking about this as well, but people like who scroll on like TikTok all the time aren't going to be able to literally sit through university lectures that are like 2-3 hours long, simply because of the fact that it's always not trying to be bored. Like when we were kids, we were bored so much, right? But when's the last time you felt bored? It's a skill, embrace it, and it's going to help with your study drastically. The next thing on this tier is deliberate practice. It's easy to study what you're already good at because it feels nice. But deliberate practice means deliberately not revising stuff you know you're good at. Your revision should make you feel dumb because you're only doing topics that you're weak at. Force yourself to grind in topics that you know you suck at. Your past papers are going to show marks like 20, 30, 40%, and it sucks. You feel dumb, you don't want to do it, but that's when you're going to get the most amount of progress and value from actually studying. Your weaknesses become strengths, and that's how you make real progress. And the last thing is meta learning. Here's the ultimate skill. Learn how you learn best. This iceberg is general. For some people, music genuinely will make them lock in so hard, and that might be on their level 5 of the pyramid. Are you a visual learner? Do you retain more by writing or speaking? Where does your energy peak during the day? The sooner you figure all of these things out by watching my videos, trying all of these things and seeing what works for you, the sooner you can stop copying like random study YouTubers and start building a system that works for you. Because remember, I'm giving you a template, but it's up to you to adjust it and implement it into your life. The actual last thing on the level 5 study pyramid is the student accelerator. Not really, it's not actually on the pyramid, but it's something that you guys should check out. It incorporates most of the things we talked about today, including stuff like accountability, surrounding yourself with other students who are on the same path as you. It teaches you all of these things, how to implement them, how to learn and study correctly, setting goals, accountability, weekly calls, and we're focusing more on the level 4-5 techniques that will really make a difference and help you create a system that you will take with you for the rest of your education career. Whether that be you're a lifelong student or you're in university, secondary school, and it's going to make it so that you learn how to learn. If that interests you, check that out in the first link in the description. But as always, I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you in the next one.